Welcome to Real Reviews, where we take a look at major Hollywood releases and let you know if they're worth your time, money, and patience. I'm your host, Walter Banasiak. Our identity is something that every person walking this planet has struggled with at some point in their lives. A lot of the time, that struggle lies in what culture we're supposed to identify with. In the United States, we've created our own culture, but we often forget that all of us were once immigrants. Our families came here from their respective countries of origin to find a better life. But sometimes their original culture is lost or forgotten about over the generations. In the documentary Deeper Than Black, a Ghanaian-American filmmaker looks to bridge the divide between his African pedigree and American birthright by confronting the question, who am I and where do I belong? Born and raised in the United States to Ghanaian parents, Sean Addo, a product of two different cultures, sets off on his quest to clarify his identity. Propelled by his fear of the loss of his Ghanaian culture, Sean looks to connect to his African heritage through dance, food, and language. Here to discuss this intriguing documentary short film is the director and subject of Deeper Than Black, Sean Addo. Sean, this film connects with a lot of people, no matter their race or culture, in a lot of different ways. Why do you think this documentary hits home with so many different people?
Well, I think it hits home just because I guess when we're younger and then throughout high school and everything like that, we're always trying to reinvent ourselves and figure out where we belong or try to like kind of build our own identity. And that's the biggest thing about it. I think that same kind of like path or quest, like everybody shares, whether it's like culture, religion, race, ethnicity, or whatever it is, there's always like that wanting to belong. It's like a human kind of nature. It's a human nature kind of thing. And then so that's like the biggest thing. So I think at its core, everybody can pick something out of the film that really resonates with them. And I think like the honesty behind it is what people really, really connect to.
Yeah, I agree, absolutely. I think everyone who's seen it has felt that same way. I've seen it with a couple people and they felt the same way about it. So I think you really did a good job on making it relatable.
Oh, thank you.
So give us your full cultural background. Like when and why did your parents come to the United States?
That's an interesting question. Like, my dad was the first person to come here. Basically, I think when he came out of, when he was basically going into college, he ultimately had a choice. It's either he studied abroad, there's like a program, so either he studied abroad in like Germany or America. And then he met this guy, he always tells me a story about this guy named Bob Dumas. I've never met him, but he's always like, Bob Dumas. Basically he said he knew him in California, in Los Angeles, because he actually came to Ghana either on like a missionary trip or something. Yeah. And then so he knew my dad's dad. And so he said, if you ever come to LA, just look me up. And then so basically when my dad had the opportunity, he just came over to Los Angeles to study at Dominguez, Cal State Dominguez.
Okay.
And that's the only guy he knew. And then so basically that's where he started. And then eventually he like sent for my mother, and then they both came over here and they grew up and they got married and they grew up in South Central Los Angeles.
South Central Los Angeles?
So, yeah.
How old were they when they came over?
Oh, I didn't mean they grew up. They were older. My dad, like, he was, I want to say, mid-20s, late 20s? Yeah.
Okay.
That type of thing.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. So how did the idea for the documentary get started?
It's funny. Originally, I ran away from the idea.
Oh,
I
really?
had a couple other documentaries that I wanted to kind of dive into. And I know this one's always like somewhat of a personal thing for me.
Yeah, right.
And I know what I kind of wanted to do is do something that really looked at like the subject matter on a macro level.
Right.
So it investigated the relationships between like African Americans and African immigrants. And then, but what happened is the more and more I dove into it, people started asking me questions. And then like, so how do you identify? And then as much as I wanted to like find other people who were better subject matter than I thought, it just kept, the conversation always circled around me and my own identity. And I started realizing I had a bunch of questions about myself, just being raised in the household as Ghanaian, I guess, for the most part. And then outside of that, it was just like, I was considered just African American just because of the people I went to school with, my friends and everything like that. And then so when the two started kind of like colliding and intersecting and stuff like that, I started questioning my own identity and where I actually fit and where I actually belong.
Right. I think it made a good documentary. A really good subject to go into.
Cool.
So what was it like making this movie as both, because you directed this, so as both the subject of the movie and the director? How is that?
That was probably like the hardest thing ever,
yeah.
honestly. Because like I said, personally, I was running away from being on camera in the first place, and I'd rather be behind and like, direct and everything like that. But that was the biggest thing. I think the most challenging aspect of it was being in the moment, because the biggest obstacle I think with the documentary is really trying to be honest. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then so if you're in it and you're directing it, you have a natural tendency to be somewhat biased.
Right.
But because it resonates and is so close to home, that naturally it just was honest because I was really searching for a lot of these answers. And a lot of these experiences were like first time experiences for me. And so it was big, like setting up the situation was the biggest thing. And then so as long as it was like a genuine situation, and I kind of leaned on like my producer a lot, Harry, and Harry Locke, and also my other producer, Timmy Coker, to really make sure and check me if I ever seemed like I was trying to sway something one way or the other.
Right, yeah.
So they called my BS if I ever did. So it's pretty genuine.
Yeah, so you had people keeping you objective.
Yeah,
That's pretty cool. So what was it like showing it to people for the first time when it was finished?
So I think like when you show any movie for the first time, especially in front of a huge audience, like man, I think the way I can explain is I used to like play football right in college, and then like you get nerves no matter what. You say you've done it a million times, and so the biggest thing was like I was just like shaking almost, you know what I mean? And then like even throughout the entire movie, you're antsy the entire time, and it wasn't until like it went black, and then I remember when it was over, and it apparently is only like a second or two between that and like applause, but it felt like an eternity.
Oh my God.
So I sunk down in my seat. I was like, oh man, it sucked. It sucked. You know what I mean? But,
and then everybody started.
Yeah, and everybody started cheering, and it was cool. It's interesting still, and I think it's always gonna be fresh to me just because it's so personal.
Yeah.
And I don't really like telling everybody about my business.
Well, you're out there now.
I really can't do anything about it. And so that's I think the biggest thing. It's such a personal doc that relates so much to other people that it's just always going to be a little bit weird for me to show it because then I feel like you know everything about me now.
Right, yeah. So you're all the way out there then.
Yeah.
So since the ending of the film, what's changed since you got done filming? Is your stance on like the Ghanaian culture changed, or is it different at all since your story's been out there?
I think with me, it kind of helped me really develop my voice.
Yeah.
And then what it is I found out it's something that's really unique to myself. And that's like this kind of journey and this quest, which I think translates into like, you know, other stories and everything. And then so a lot of stuff I seem to be working on, like I got a feature that I just wrote, and I'm working on that. It deals with like identity in a really extreme kind of crazy circumstance. And then so it's kind of like, even though it's bottled up in like 11-year-old girl basically finding out about her culture and everything for the first time in Ghana, and it's kind of like a thriller. But it's still at its essence the same thing. It's a search. You're trying to connect to that identity thing. And then for me, ultimately, it's really kind of showed how important it is to really hone in on that, at least the Ghanaian side of things, just because I guess now I consider myself like the most politically correct term is like Ghanaian American. Right. And then I feel fine with that because most of the time it's
okay with that label?
Yeah, because before it was like situational. Like sometimes you ask me like I'm Ghanaian, and other times it's like I can't be because I'm in the presence of a bunch of other Ghanaians. Yeah. And they're actually born and raised there, and so I feel more American. And so that's kind of what it deals with a lot. Right. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and we saw that in the documentary, and I think you handled it really well too. Thanks. So you're in town for the Black Harvest Film Festival taking place here in Chicago. Yeah. The first time you're going to show outside of USC and everything. Yeah. So you got to be excited about that. There's also, it kind of ties back to Governor State University because our professors here, Daniel Nearing and Sangun Lee, have a film showing in the Black Harvest Film Festival too, called Hogtown. Okay. So there's a connection there, so I'm glad that we can intersect here.
Definitely.
But yeah, tell us a little background about the festival. I mean, you know, what's its theme, and you know, why are you excited for this particular one?
The theme of the festival is, I guess it's kind of in the title, Black Harvest Film Festival.
Yeah, right.
So ultimately, it's kind of like
a little self-explanatory.
Right. But it's more or less, it's really takes like films that are themed about, that have the theme of like almost like the Black experience within the U.S. around the world. Yeah. And so either thematically or, you know, people on the production or like at least the cast and crew have something to do with that kind of like theme, I guess, overall. Yeah. And so the cool thing about it is that it's been around for I think like 20 years. This is like the 20th anniversary. And then so now it's kind of like, it's a really big deal.
It's a bigger thing.
Yeah. And then so it's like it started off a lot of careers of a lot of successful filmmakers and you know, like the professors that are here. Yeah. And then also it's really a really great platform for emerging like filmmakers. And so that's what I'm most excited about, because you really get to connect with the audience. They really want to understand your material on a deeper level, which is really nice. And you also have a couple people from the industry here and everything like that. So it's just a great experience, a great way to network. And I mean, Chicago's an incredible place.
Chicago's the place, isn't it?
Yeah. So I'm excited. As long as I can get away, if I find any excuse to kind of come here, you know, I'm excited.
It's a great place to visit for sure. So what's next for Sean Addo? Where do you see yourself ending up in the filmmaking industry?
I want to write and direct, and like the biggest thing for me is like I was saying, my feature is kind of like the big thing, the next big thing I really want to do. It's kind of it's stemmed from my sister going to Ghana when we were around. She was 11 and we were younger, and my parents took her there, or took us there, and then they left her behind so she could learn like the culture for like 2 years. And I remember when I was younger, my dad used to always say, you got to be careful of like the cabs and stuff like that, because you never know where you're going to end up. Because sometimes there is this thing kind of going on, and a little bit in like Nigeria and Ghana, where sometimes there's like kidnappings and things of that nature. Man. So the story deals with like this little girl named Amelia who actually goes with her father for the first time to Ghana to understand her culture and her family, and then the father actually leaves her there. So that's actually like real, you know? Man. And then she gets caught up in a crazy situation where she escapes a botched kidnapping, and they take her grandmother, and she ends up like basically running around in the streets of like the city and in the slums of Sodom and Gomorrah. And it's called that, really. It's nuts. But,
oh my God.
Yeah.
Okay.
The only
Sounds
way she
intense.
Right. And the only way she can survive is by learning and understanding the culture and the language and things of that nature. So you kind of learn as she learns as the movie goes along. But
that's cool.
That's the next big thing, I think, for me.
Right. So you're still using the same kind of theme
to
put into a narrative movie.
Yeah. There's that. There's another project I'm doing too. I'm part of an anthology. There's 9 directors from USC.
Oh, wow.
And we're all doing something that kind of promotes or understands the Black I guess, experience within the U.S. And I'm doing kind of an Afro-futuristic piece.
Oh.
Yeah, so it's nice. I don't know, I'm crazy.
Cool. All right, well, you got stuff going on. I mean, that's great. And you know, you got into this film festival, so you're obviously doing something, right?
I'm trying, thanks, dude.
Yeah, all right. So we have a little tradition here at Real Reviews. Every time we do an interview, we have a little thing called the lightning round.
Uh-oh.
We ask just a couple quick questions.
Okay.
So as short answer as possible. You ready?
Right.
Okay, these are simple. These are simple ones, all right? And I'm not going to grill you here. So favorite movie?
Slumdog Millionaire?
Okay.
Yeah.
Favorite director?
Darren Aronofsky.
Darren Aronofsky.
Yeah. Except he gets a pass on what's it called? Noah. Yeah.
You didn't like Noah, huh? Yeah, I know.
Moments.
A lot of people are kind of split on that one. Favorite actor?
It was actually Will Smith for the longest time, but I actually think it's Leonardo DiCaprio.
Oh, he switched over.
Yeah.
Did Wolf of Wall Street change your mind?
No, it's not even that.
I didn't even like that movie that much.
Yeah, it was like this. This is other stuff. I just think he's amazing. He deserves an Oscar, and he hasn't had one yet. You know.
Yeah. Okay. So you're rooting for the underdog. Yeah, I see how it is.
Yeah.
All right.
Whatever.
All right. Well, thanks for playing the lightning round there, Sean.
No problem. Anytime.
Right. Yeah. I'd like to thank Sean Addo for talking with us today about his great documentary short film. For more information, check out deeperthanblack.com. Look out for more Real Reviews coming soon, and remember, if it's not reviewed here, it just isn't real. I'm Walter Banasiak, this has been Sean Addo, and we'll see you at the movies.